The city glistened under a light drizzle that night, every street lamp glowing like a golden halo in the dark. Mark Weston stood beside his black SUV, collar turned up against the cold wind, his eyes scanning the parking lot outside a community shelter. He hadn't planned to stop. His workday had already dragged on longer than it should have. But there she was, sitting alone on a bench, hood pulled tight, clutching a worn leather bag as though it was the only thing she had left in the world. Something about her made him pause before he could talk himself out of it. Her eyes flicked toward him, cautious yet sharp. Measuring if he was friend or foe, Mark hesitated, keys clenched in his fist. After his divorce, he had promised himself one thing: no more risks, no more sudden rescues. His life was supposed to be steady now, safe for his 9-year-old daughter, Emily. And yet, here he was, standing in the rain for a stranger who looked like she was barely holding on. "You can't stay out here all night," Mark said gently, stepping closer. "A storm's coming." She stiffened, voice trembling as she whispered, "I'm fine." Mark crouched a little so she wouldn't have to look up at him. "I'm Mark. I don't usually bother people, but you look like you could use a warm place tonight." There was silence. Then finally she spoke. "Claire," she murmured, I was a nurse." That single word hit him like a stone. Without thinking, he gestured to his SUV. "Come with me, just for tonight. I have a spare room. And Emily, my daughter, she'd love the company." Claire blinked, torn between suspicion and exhaustion. "Why would you help me?" Mark didn't have a perfect answer. Maybe because he knew what it was like to lose everything. Maybe because Emily had been asking why people on the street had no beds and he hadn't known how to explain. "Because you deserve a chance," he said simply, and so she followed him. On the drive, wipers drumming against the rain, Claire's voice finally broke the silence. "I didn't plan any of this. My mom got sick, I stayed at the hospital for weeks, and when I came back, my job, my apartment, everything was gone." Mark glanced at her but only said, "You don't need to explain. Not tonight." Inside the Weston home, a small voice drifted from the staircase. "Daddy, who's that?" Mark smiled softly. "This is Claire. She'll be staying with us for a while." Emily's shy smile lit the room, and Claire's eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. It had been so long since anyone had offered her kindness. The days that followed were fragile, careful, like walking across thin ice. Claire tried not to intrude, helping in the kitchen, laughing quietly at Emily's stories. Slowly, the sound of her laughter began to feel like it belonged. Mark noticed, too, the way Claire hummed while folding laundry, the way she listened to Emily with her whole heart. But life wasn't suddenly easy. Mark's company was facing pressure, and Claire was still fighting the weight of her past. One night after Emily had gone to bed, Claire whispered, "I should look for work." "I can't just stay here. You're not a burden," Mark replied softly. "But if working helps you, I'll help you find something." They worked late into the night on her resume, shoulders brushing as they leaned over his laptop. Something unspoken sparked between them, fragile but steady. Weeks later, Claire landed a part-time nursing job. Her first paycheck brought tears, and they celebrated with homemade pizza. For the first time in a long time, the house rang with laughter. But the past wasn't finished with them. Mark's ex-wife suddenly demanded full custody of Emily. Old wounds reopened. Fear and doubt crept back in. And one stormy night, like the one when they first met, Mark found Claire quietly packing her bag. "You've done enough for me," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't want to make things harder with Emily." Mark's chest tightened. "You're not making things harder. You've made our lives better." Tears welled in Claire's eyes. "You don't know what it means to be offered a home when you feel invisible." "I do," Mark whispered, placing his hand over hers. "Because you gave me one too." At the custody hearing, tension was thick. But when the judge asked about Emily's stability, she spoke up with innocent honesty. "My dad makes pancakes on Sundays, and Claire helps me with my homework. We're happy." Those simple words carried more weight than any lawyer's argument. The judge ruled in Mark's favor. Full custody. Outside the courthouse, Emily wrapped her arms around Claire, laughter mixing with tears. Mark met Claire's gaze, and for a moment the world stood still. That night, as twilight painted the sky, Mark set 3 mugs of cocoa on the porch. Emily nestled between them, sighing happily. "You know," Mark said quietly, looking at Claire, "the night I stopped for you, I thought I was saving someone. Turns out you were saving me too." Claire's smile trembled but held strong. She reached for his hand. Together they watched the stars awaken, knowing their lives had changed forever, not from charity, not from chance, but from the courage to open their hearts and let someone in. This was another heart-touching story brought to you by HQ Infinite Stories, where every story reminds us that kindness changes everything.